Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando.
Happy Friday, Star Wars Destiny folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and the Commando Cast. So while I continue to have some concerns about what the long-term sustainability of the ARH Standard format will be with all the new reprints coming in, it doesn't mean it hasn't been a ton of fun sitting down doing theory crafting, kind of putting stuff together and looking at what might be. So that's what I wanted to do today, was just sit and look at, what I think might be good, what I personally am looking forward to in the new ARH Standard meta after the reprints go legal. Hey folks, so welcome back. So it's about a week until September 1st when all of the new ARH-legal FFG reprints FFG card reprints enter the meta. And it's going to change things a lot, right? I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. So what I wanted to do tonight, I put some slides together and just some ideas and places where my head has been at personally, going through and kind of doing some testing. Now, of course, this is always, of course, biased with not only my opinion, but also my skew on what I enjoy playing, right? A lot of them, there's going to be a ton of options out there, right? I've been pretty clear that I think supports are going to be pretty strong. I don't think that's a hugely groundbreaking statement. I think supports are going to be pretty strong, which should lead to pretty strong mill. So that's kind of where my head's been at in terms of trying to figure out how I can play what I like to play into that meta. So that, of course, is guiding a lot of the choices tonight. Right, so let's just go ahead and get into this. Basically, this is one of the places I want to start, right, is things are going to be really, really, really impactful. One of the aggro options out there, I think you can call it aggro in this case, maybe mid-range, I don't know, I'll have to see. But Padme and All-In is real scary. Right, remember back in the Padme, Padme's Convergence, so she was never legal with All-In, right, in a standard format. We did have Impulsive, right, my Padme Leia Bouche deck, right, I know a lot of people remember that one, using Impulsive on the multiple focus to just go pow, 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 pow. Well, now, All-In's better, right, so remember when, like I said, I've got that note there, it's Impulsive was JV, and we just graduated, we just got promoted to varsity with All-In, right, All-In is massive because you don't, right, with Impulsive, you only got one action, so you had to, in some cases, you had to make inefficient decisions with flipping to the same type of die side so you could get the shot off. You don't have to do that with All-In, right? You can just maximize everything you need and just resolve it all in one shot, and then probably claim mean streets and get the hell out of Dodge, right? Yeah, so this one's really scary, so we'll have to see where people go with that. I don't think there's any shortage of, she's 14 points. I don't think there's any shortage of partners to go with her. You could even play her with Stay Ahead. Man, that's 17 points. I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, pretty, and it doesn't have to be just Padme, right? I choose Padme because she's got that scary 3 focus, and again, that's a familiar deck that I have, but I don't think it should be a huge surprise that this is a scary prospect out there. So that's one thing that I think I don't necessarily, like I said, have any great pairs for yet, but I do think this is going to be something that somebody comes up with somehow, and this will be more on the aggro front. Another thing I'm concerned about, not concerned about, but I'm a little concerned about this one. I want to watch this one in terms of supports is Afra with the Hailfire, right? So we know that when you play a droid with, so Afra lets you bring a bunch of droids. They don't have to follow your deck building restrictions. Now, that's not necessarily applicable in this case since Hellfire is neutral, but you could, in theory, bring, because you get to bring 6, right? You might bring, because you get to if she's with red, you can bring those 2 Hailfires anyway in your deck because they're neutral. And then you could bring up to 6 more for a total of 8. We'd kind of talked about her before with Assassin Droid type stuff. The Hailfire one's better, right? Because you get the indirect for playing a droid with Afra. Hailfire deals an indirect for itself. And then it just starts to compound, right? So you have indirect, all by playing cards, right? So you can play kind of a support type thing where you don't really have to resolve many dice except for just money, and that makes it hard for people to control your dice, right? So anyway, that is something that I think we need to watch, right? I mean, the obvious one's probably like an Afra. I mean, this one comes in and you can activate it, so I mean, you don't have to. But, like an Afra Watt Jabba type of thing, I think that's probably where you go. In this case, you're probably playing a single die Afra. So there are options there for sure. But yeah, we'll have to see what the people create. This is definitely one of the sports places. You got Mouse Droid in there for the 0, for the focus. The guns on this thing are no joke. The indirect on this thing's no joke. Remember, active cruelty becomes legal again once you get all that indirect out there. A lot of really scary prospects with this one. The next is, the Blue Hero Love. I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody, but Ancient and Shoto combined. I mean, not combined with Lightsaber Pull, but you have Ancient and Shoto together. Shoto, I think, is going to be hugely impactful for shield wall stuff. You have Lightsaber Pull, so you can make sure that you get what you need when you need it. The healing with Ancient. These 3 cards are definitely going to change. I mean, this is not a secret, right? Like these cards are going to change the landscape of the game. And to be completely fair, the Shoto might help offset, like the one we just talked about, right? The Afro deck with all the indirects, Shoto might help offset that. Certainly, in theory, could help offset like that Curse Ping deck that has been kind of my personal scourge, right? And by that I mean it's been killing me. So we'll have to see how that fits in, and then we'll kind of talk. I mean, you're gonna see a lot of Shoto and Ancient, just because that's how a lot of people like to play, and I'm looking forward to it as well. All right, so one of the top decks, this is where I've been putting a lot of my calories lately, is Ahsoka Rex. So Rex, remember, is 13 points as per the errata when he comes back. The fact that, the DC and the DH, the 2 baby blasters, are legal together is big, right? That you have, well, I mean, let's just get to the point. I mean, Jar-Kai, right? So you have Westar Rex for $1 can guarantee you can get your 2 pings out of it. You've got the DHs that just come in. You've got Jar-Kai. You've got this cheap wide. You can do armory. This one looks really, at the very least, this one looks really, really fun. We'll have to see how it holds up again. But the fact that, she can exhaust those upgrades to get those dice back in, like once somebody removes them, you can get them back in. The pings from Westar do matter. You have battlefield control options with Rex. A lot of really, really neat stuff here. So I think this deck's probably going to be, going to be popular early. But I also think that most of the, at least from like the top end players, I think that like you're going to see a huge amount of support decks, right? I mean, your Destiny Junior guys for sure, like Rebel Trader, I'm pretty sure he was already working on it before. Like I'm sure Trader's all over Afra because that's been his love forever. So stuff like that. I mean, we're definitely going to see supports, but I think, if you're looking to run just like a 2-wide fun Destiny deck, I think this one looks fun. Next, another, let's say, strength concern I have is hit and run becomes legal, and hit and run with Wedge looks really, really strong, right? And so one of the more popular decks out there, at least going into this, is Wedge Dash for like the you have Instigate, you have the controlled chaos craziness where you can do that with Ambush. Now with hit and run, and then right, so we've got hit and run. I don't have mean streets on this graphic, but it's there with dash, obviously, for your jumps and all this stuff. So it's just adding more speed and a little bit more surprise factor to this. And I mean, I don't know how much more I need to say on this. I mean, the Wedge is incredible for these cheat type plays, the action cheat type plays, the roll resolve type plays, because he's so consistent. I mean, he's not necessarily hitting hard, but he provides the base sides that you need if you what is the D8? I don't know, the DL18, right? The one that's all pay sides, but you can modify, or if it becomes modifier, it's free. Just a lot of really good in piloting, and gets all the piloting tricks, and there's a lot of really good stuff for this deck. But adding hit and run into it, I think it was already kind of fast before, and hit and run just makes it faster, right? Gives them 4 action cheats. So. All right, so where I've been putting a lot of my mental calories in is Kylo. So you guys know I'd been playing Kylo. It was Kylo Dengar, Kylo Pyre. That was kind of at the end of the redemption meta. I haven't really been playing him in high stakes. But I think Kylo becomes pretty relevant again for a couple of reasons. One, he picks up Ancient and Shoto and Crossguard. Has a lightsaber pull, so he can get what he needs. But I think the main reason I like him is because if you're moving into, especially if we light it, so if support wide goes heavy, then that goes advantageous into mill, and we saw that like Anakin alone, Transformations Anakin alone, really put a lot of pressure on mill, and Kylo kind of does it too, right? Not as direct, but he also doesn't take damage, which I don't know is completely relevant here. Yeah, and then the fact that he can get Shotos to stay alive. Even in the non-mill matchups, right, he has Shotos, so he can just stay alive and just keep pounding two. Now, of course, if your opponent has Shotos, then gotta play Real Destiny again. But there's a lot of really good options. So you could think about Jarkaiing with him, I suppose. That wasn't really where my head went originally, but you could do it. There are a lot of interesting partners for him. I think it's funny you can play Kylo Phasma again, right? Because 2-player Phasma's back, so you can play a different Kylo, but you can play 17-point Kylo with 13-point Phasma. I do think Pyre's probably the better partner, but I'm always, my Pyre love is obviously biased there. And then the Dengar matchup, like playing him with yellow is really, really good. I was originally excited about like the Gamorrean Pit Fighter or whatever he's called, but that guy doesn't have Guardian, right? Because my head, like the old Piggy had Guardian, but the new guy doesn't. So I think you want a little bit of Guardian while you can try to get Super Kylo going with his, 19 blades. But yeah, so like I've been putting a lot of effort. It's just where I've landed early. But I like the look of Kylo. You remember he has 34 cards after shuffle, which also doesn't hurt the mill matchup. Yeah, so that's at least where my head is. I don't know how popular he'll be early. We'll have to see how he performs into the various decks. But the reality is I don't think he's going to be able to outrace. He's more of a mill play because I don't know he's going to be able to outrace like an Afra, ping deck. I just don't think he will. All right, another spot. So tons of cards on the screen right now, and that's the point. Is like these guys have a ton of options. So when High Stakes came out, I thought the Inquisitor Squad were going to be really, really strong. Just with the way that things shaped up early with kind of the speed, they really weren't performing, at least to where I thought they were. They were still a fun deck to play. I think that the Grand Inquisitor Second Sister with Inquisitorius ended up being kind of the better version there. You had the huge play with Grand Inquisitor in 9th where you could Dark Reflect if you were able to get that early and just throw damage. But I think from a consistency standpoint, Second Sister Grand Inquisitor was better, but it required a lot of your blank tricks. So it was never super effective, but again, you throw in Ancient and Shoto, primarily Ancient actually, but also Hidden Motive, right? Hidden Motive's huge for these guys because it's your soft free removal. You have the other tricks that, they already had, which, Dark Dispatch, add in Overconfidence now. So I think these guys actually get into a pretty decent spot. They picked up a lot of new toys, so I'm going to be putting some effort there as well. Now, what's interesting here is that with Ancient alone, I think the big pickup for these guys is Ancient more so than Shoto. Because remember they were running I would run the Inquisitor lightsaber, which was 2 cost. Well, that's straight out. That's just gone for Ancient. And remember, Ancient, everybody loves that +3, but the base one side is really big because Ninth Sisters +3 sucks, right? And it provides a lot of base sides. So you could very easily get a couple Ancients out there. Remember, it still does its healing thing if you need it to. So I really like a lot of the look of Ancient into 9th now. Like I think there's an argument to be made that 9th might move into the slot over Second Sister. But yeah, a lot of cool options there. Another set that I've been looking at a lot because I think it's really strong, especially because I don't even have it on the graphic, but Beguile is back, right? So the guy I have in front there is RDM Maul with Savage. I'd put kind of some effort into trying to figure out how to use SOH Maul, like my boy Maul, like one of my favorite Destiny cards. I would try and figure out how to use him. He's just not cost effective versus versus Redemption Maul. He's just not, like, they're not really that close. Now, Maul Skill Duelist, I think in many cases performs better definitely in I don't know in a wide format, but in a mill format, I like Maul. Of course, I like Maul. I like Skill Duelist Maul, right? I like SOH Maul against mill, but with being able to play your Fear and Dead Man for 1, or your Powers Are Weak, or any of these other 2-drops for 1, while making him better, meaning putting more counters on him, is really too good to ignore, right? And you compare the points on those guys, and I do think that, because remember, Maul's not a reprint, so he could still potentially be on the block for a points reduction, and I think actually dropping him by a point to make him even with RDM Maul might be appropriate, but I don't know why that's so far down the line. Just ignore that fact, right? Point is, there's a lot going on here. I mean, these decks were pretty good before, right? The RDM Maul Savage deck was pretty decent before it picked up again. Like, Shoto to keep him alive is huge. Ancient is huge. It reduces their cost curve, which is also huge because, not just because of normal stuff, but because that was one of the things is a lot of times, even with the power action, you had to choose if you were going to play basically a big control and a little control, or if you were going to play a weapon. You still had to kind of make that choice. Plus, remember, you need $1 for a special, right? So you kind of got into that weird thing where you couldn't quite do everything you wanted until your later turns when you had everything out. And with Maul, basically, you want to be kind of doing the tricks early, right? So that was always kind of the hang up there. Well, now Shoto can keep him alive until he's ready to just wreck your face. Yeah, I think this guy's coming back. And again, I really wish I could get SOH Maul to work. Maybe he will later once the meta evolves. But probably RDM Maul becomes the way to go. Next, not next, near the end here is Yoda, SOH Yoda, actually, also SOH. This one's scary, because he can have 6 shields, and Shoto makes shields, and as long as you can keep this guy alive, you can even do like your apt lesson play, like your apt lesson draw closers. In this case, we're really thankful that Ataru. So one of the things kind of, we talked about it, I don't know, over the last couple of years, how it would have been cool if Ataru Strike was a move. Obviously it would have been a move had it been several sets later, right? That blocks later, it would have been a move, right? But it's not. But I think that's a good thing now, because being able to apt lesson for 4 times Ataru Strike would be pretty brutal, right? Because remember, Ataru Strike does not remove the shields. Now that Riposte is back as well, so you could Ataru Strike a 1 for 5 damage, or more, right? But you can so it's like Ataru Strike a 1 for plus X, and then throw that X with Riposte, and all you have to do is activate and turtle and do what you were going to do anyway with Yoda, and he has plenty of ways to get Saber. Jedi lightsaber is still a thing. Yoda looks real strong, right? And you could, right, he's 14 points. He's 14, 18. So with Ki Mundi, there's an argument to be made for running single die key for the shield recycling, or not single, but you know what I mean, running a 3-die Yoda key for the recycling and just using the abilities. I think there's a deck to be made there, and to just be able to do 6 damage at a hand. It costs you the shields, but you can just drop somebody, is pretty huge. Ataru Strike is really, really scary. Anyway, I think you guys get the point here, but Blue Hero's got a lot of options. Blue everything has a lot of options with, how many times in this presentation alone have we looked at Ancient Shoto and lightsaber pull, right? So anyway, that is it. Those are all the slides I had anyway made for today. So yeah, I mean, that's basically where my head has been. Like I said, I've actually been having a lot of fun doing binder stuff and trying to figure out new stuff. But you know, it's early. Not only is it early, it hasn't even happened yet. But I'm just forecasting where I want to be with play, and then as the meta evolves, we can respond to that. I mean, that's the way it works, right? But I've been having fun. I've been having fun, right? So hopefully you guys have been as well. I mean, you know, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned about where we'll be in 8 weeks. And, you know, the new set comes out in November, but it didn't click to me, you know, when it first happened, like the reprints won't actually cycle out. I mean, they could always do bans or whatever, like bans or delegalizations, whatever. They could always do that along the way for like mid-cycles and stuff. But we don't get the first reprint refresh, I think, until later. I forget the exact date at the moment I'm doing this. I'll go pull the graphic and put up the timeline. It might even be like January, I think. So that's like when we'll get like an actual like reprint refresh. So that'll be our next real, I mean, obviously the new set coming out will change things, but like if we have, you know, I think a lot of what will drive the new meta is the reprints. And without those cycling out, like I think you're looking still at the new stuff fitting into that, the new set fitting into that instead of the other way around, right? So, which is fine. I mean, that's the way that a normal game works. It's just kind of looking at the timeline, and that didn't click with me right away. But no big deal. Like I said, I've been having a lot of fun just playing around and excited to get some games with everybody once the reprints go legal, because that's kind of where my head has been at lately, and my focus has been. So anyway, like I said, been having a lot of fun. Hope you guys are as well. I know there's a lot of evil geniuses out there doing their thing. So anyway, I'll see you guys on the table. Go Commando.